So I'm delighted to be joined by Frank Turner.
Hello.
How are you? Thanks for joining us here on CamGlen.
I'm a bit tired because I just drove here, and that probably doesn't sound very exciting, but I only passed my driving test a year ago.
It's not very rock and roll, is it?
No, well, so today was my first day driving in Scotland ever.
Right.
Obviously, I've been here a million times, but it was my first time doing the A74M.
Right.
Up from the border, so it was good. It was nice. I didn't hit any other cars.
That is the main thing.
Yeah.
So it's King Tuts tonight, which is show 2362, I believe.
Correct. Yes. Good research there.
So the last time you were here was in 2015, just before the release of Positive Songs for Negative People.
Okay.
What was it about Glasgow crowds and in particular King Tuts that keeps you coming back?
Well, okay, so I mean, Glasgow crowds, you guys have a rep, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
No.
But like the first time, remember the first time Million Dead played up here, we were opening for Funeral for a Friend at like the garage or something. And I remember the crowd was very just kind of standing there, sort of checking us out, being like, okay.
What's going on here?
Yeah, and then the next time we came through, the place was rammed, everyone went crazy, and it was that thing of like, I feel like Glasgow crowds, they take a while to decide if they like you or not, but if they do,
then you're in.
And you're on track. So it's always a good show, and I mean, you know, we have fun up here, and I've played like every venue going. I mean, last time I was in Glasgow was in January.
It was the Academy. I was in the crowds.
Academy. Oh, very much. There you go. So yeah, you know, it's always good to be up here. King Tuts itself is legendary. I have actually been here since then with Mongrel Hall, my other band.
Okay.
We played here in January 2017. I want to say. So I've played this room many times, and it's always nice to come back.
So you touched on obviously your days with Million Dead, and the post-hardcore days, but you've changed now to the acoustic folk punk thing that we know today. So what would you say to musicians listening to this right now who are maybe a bit down in the dumps, want a bit of inspiration? What can you say to them to get them back on the horse and say, look, go make music, go do it, it's worthwhile?
I mean, you know, there's nothing that's ever remotely kind of touched me in the way music does. Aside from my wonderful fiancée who I'm marrying, who's in the room, thank you very much. But you know, it's just, I mean, it's my passion. It keeps me going. One of the redemptive things about touring, particularly, is it took me a few years to figure out the right wording to say this, but I did. Touring's great because there's a daily chance for restatement and redemption.
No.
So like, it doesn't matter if you had a bad show yesterday because there's tonight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you have a bad show tonight because there's tomorrow.
You'll always be judging your last show.
Yeah, you know, and it's just if you had a good show last night, then your job is to play better.
Yeah.
And if you had a bad show, your job is to play a good show. And it's just this thing of like every single day, it's like the slate gets wiped clean in this way. And it also has to do with the fact that you tend to be in a different place every day, and it's a different group of people and different context and everything. But there's something really redemptive about that daily chance to kind of restate your case.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of. I mean, it tends to be in my life the best shows I ever play are the day after I have a bad show, because the following day I'm absolutely like fired up to prove to the world and mostly to myself that I am actually doing this for a good reason. Yeah, you know, totally. That I'm allowed to have this job. Do you know what I mean? So you know, I mean, in terms of inspiration, I mean, just keep playing, man. Like keep loving it, keep traveling, keep meeting people, keep seeing the world, and like any band that hasn't played at least about half their career to 3 people in the sound guy.
I'm doing it right.
Yeah, well, they don't know what they're talking about anyway, so just love it.
Yeah. So you're stranded on a desert island, and you can only bring one album and a CD player. What album would you bring?
Oh God, that's such a difficult question. I mean, my sort of cheating answer to that question is to say that I bring the soundtrack to The Last Waltz by the band, because the thing about that is it does then give you a bit of Neil Young, a bit of Joni Mitchell,
a bit of everything.
Van Morrison. So you get to kind of like spread your wings a bit there. So maybe I'll pick that.
Yeah. So my next question revolves around the songwriting process. What usually comes first? Is it the melody or the lyrics? And how do you develop it into the finished article? Do you go to Sleeping Souls and go, this is what I've got, let's go jam it out?
Well, so I don't really have a strict methodology in terms of words and lyrics. I tend to sort of have like a pile of lyrical ideas and a pile of musical ideas, and quite a lot of there's different stages to the process. The cliche about it is that you kind of lie on a chaise longue and the ideas just land in your lap, and then you've written a song, and that's not really how it works. You collect kind of ingredients, or at least I do, and then you spend your time. There's this sort of cooking part, you know, where you're kind of like you know, I've got a bit of a lyrical idea and I've got a musical idea, and you pick the two up and try and jam them together
yeah.
and see what happens. Every now and again you get lyrics and music at the same time, and that's gravy. That means you're onto something good in my experience. And then generally speaking, what happens is I'll finish a song in terms of its structure and melody and chord changes and all the rest of it, and usually have a pretty good idea of where it's going to go arrangement-wise, but I'll take it to the solos, and quite often it will surprise me at that point because the guys in the band are so good that, you know, there are many songs in my career that like I went in with the boys with an idea of how it was going to sound, and it came out radically different. So, you know, they make a huge contribution at that point. But the kind of the roadmap, the blueprint, if you like, is the thing I handle on my own.
So following on from that question, is there any song that you've written you look back on and go, oh, I wish I hadn't recorded that? Or do you go... or is there any song... maybe flip that question. Is there any song you go... I wish I had written that now that you have written and recorded?
I mean, well, okay, there's two questions there. I mean, there are plenty of songs that I'm not going to sit here and say that every single song I put on record has been a resounding success. Yeah. I mean, I've released a lot of music, and there are some. I mean, like there's a song on Poetry of the D. The first song on that record is called "Live Fast Die Old," and it at the time that we recorded it, we tried it so many different iterations of the structure of that song, and I knew that something wasn't quite right. It was like Princess and the Pea. There was something amiss with it structurally, and we never quite got to the model of it. We recorded it and put it out, and then we didn't play it for quite a long time because that was still nagging at the back of my mind. And then earlier this year we did the 10-year anniversary of Poetry of the Deed, and we re-rehearsed the songs, and we pretty much had to learn quite a few of them from scratch because we hadn't played them in a long time. And in re-rehearsing that song, I figured out how to make it better, but I can't change it now because it goes the way it goes, and it was just like, oh, god damn it. So that was like frustrating. There's a million songs I wish I'd written. I mean, we will be here all day if I start listening. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, me for a Thunder Road, Bruce Springsteen is
right. I mean, good lord, yeah. Also, I mean, almost in a way, like as somebody who's, and I would describe my central obsession in life as songwriting above and beyond anything else. And like when I hear a really good song, it fills me with joy and jealousy in equal measure. We've been listening to a band called Truck Stop Honeymoon in the last couple of days. I did a show with them at Glastonbury this year, and they were so incredible. And they have a song called Mama Cried When Frank Sinatra Died that just the minute I listened to it, I was like, this is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life. And you know, you sit there and you examine it, you enjoy it, and then you examine it and you try and deconstruct it, and then you sit there thinking, God damn it, why didn't I come up with this?
Well, that's exactly. It's as you said, it's jealousy and.
Yeah, but I think it's healthy jealousy.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, because it means the next time I sit down to write, I'm going to be like, right, I need to write a song that's
something similar, not similar, but like kind of on the same kind of wavelength.
That's a roundabout way of describing inspiration.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So if you could go to any gig in time, what would it be? So like Queen at Wembley, Beatles at the Cavern.
I would really, really like to have seen Nirvana in early 1993.
Okay.
Which is when I think they were at their peak, because it was when they had the material for In Utero and when Kurt was on a slightly cleaner trajectory. In Utero, I mean, I have the artwork tattooed on my leg. It's one of my top 3 records of all time. Yeah. And I think that they were the perfect punk band at that moment in time. I could also say Fugazi, but I did actually see Fugazi, and they were incredible, so...
There you go. So the new album, No Man's Land, is due for release on August 16th.
Yeah.
Can we expect... I'm going to try and get a wee teaser at you. Okay. Can we expect anything from your set tonight from that album? Or are you going to dust off maybe some older songs?
A little bit of both. Well, the first thing I should say is the gentleman never reveals his set list in advance, so I'm not gonna get into detail here. But like the thing is, there's a time lag in the music industry, like and more so with this record. Like I wrote these songs quite a long time ago. I finished recording this album in like February this year, and then so it's been good to go for a while, and I'm like champing at the bit to play new songs. I love playing new songs. Now that the record is kind of like in the firing line, I feel like I can justifiably play a few more tracks with it. So yeah, we'll see.
So I know you're holding your cards close to your chest, but maybe the new song Sister Rosetta. Is that maybe?
I'm sort of duty bound to play that because it's the new single.
It's the new single, yeah.
So, and that one is out there. People can listen to that. But it's kind of fun with this record. We're going to release a song a week because we're doing a podcast and a song every week, every Wednesday from now. Yeah. So the second song and the second podcast comes out on Wednesday coming. And then so on and so on and so on.
So where can people find the podcast if they want to listen to it?
I sort of wherever you get podcasts. I mean, it's definitely on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. I don't really know what other podcasting platforms.
Is there a special name for it, or is it just?
It's called Tales from No Man's Land.
Tales from No Man's Land.
It was slightly frustrating. I wanted to call the podcast No Man's Land as well, but there is already a podcast called No Man's Land, so we had to
change that a wee bit.
Change that one around.
So actually, while we're on the subject of the new single Sister Rosetta, would you like to introduce your new single for us here on CamGlen?
I'd love to. It's a song about Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who was an African American woman who invented rock and roll, guitar and music generally in the 1930s and 1940s, and was very successful for a brief period of time, and then was essentially written out of history when white people started playing the music she'd invented. White men, I might add. So as a white man who plays rock and roll music, I feel like it's really important for me to acknowledge that her contribution to everything that I do. So and plus, and most importantly, she rocked. Yeah. She was amazing. So this is my tribute to Sister Rosetta. But you should also go and listen to some of her own music as well. But this one's called Sister Rosetta.